Hey everybody, Patrick Gensel here, and I want to take a quick moment to teach you how I create time-lapse videos with my GoPro camera using Adobe After Effects. First, you want to start by creating a new project. Then, what I do is I'll go to the import dialog, import file, and then I will find all of the JPEG images. Keep in mind this technique is using photo-based time-lapse and not video-based time-lapse, both of which are options on the newer GoPro models. So you want to select all of your JPEG images in this sequence and then make sure it's checked as a JPEG sequence. That way it'll import as one file instead of lots of separate files. So we'll open that. And we get this JPEG sequence over here. Mine's just named based on the range of photos that I imported, but you can rename that or do whatever you'd like with that. Next, what you'll do is you'll drag it onto the timeline down here. Oops. Disregard that, I wasn't on the timeline. So you want to make sure you're on the timeline. Drag your file onto the timeline. And you'll see here I have a really wide photo. It's or wide composition, and you want to go if you get something like this, you want to go into composition settings and make sure if you want to export this for HD 1080, I'm going to export it for 1080, so I'll select the HD 1080 29.97 preset. And that'll give me a 1080 by 1920 workspace. Hit OK. Now you'll notice you're zoomed in quite a way, and the reason for that is GoPro images are about 4,000 pixels wide, and of course a 1080 by 1920 HD file is about 1920 pixels wide. So what you want to do if you want the full shot in frame is adjust the size. This also gives you some flexibility to move around the frame and do some pretty interesting stuff, but I'll get to that in a second. For the sake of this tutorial, you want to twirl down next to your file and then twirl down transform, and then you'll see scale. You want to scrub on scale until you're at the appropriate size. So about 48% fills the frame here. And of course you can drag it up and down to display more of the sky or more of the foreground as you choose. I'm going to leave it like that because I like the way that's composed. And if you see these borders up here, that's just showing you what's left of the frame. So now, basically, that's our basic time lapse, or our basic composition that we can export as a time lapse. As we scrub through here, you'll see it advance through the time lapse. But since I shoot my GoPro in ProTune mode, this image is a little flat looking. So what I'm going to first do is add some contrast, a little saturation, and a little sharpening. So the way you do that, if you need to do that, is you right-click on your source file, go to Effects, and then go to Color Correction, and add Brightness and Contrast first. Once you have that in there, you can go down to the Effects field underneath your file. Twirl that down, twirl down brightness and contrast, and then adjust your contrast. I'm going to start by going about 20 on the contrast. I think that looks pretty good there. Then brightness, I'm actually going to bring it down a little bit. Maybe not quite that much. -5 there looks pretty good. Contrast I think is good. Now I want to add a little sharpening to this. So again, right click Effects, and then here you're going to go to Blur and Sharpening, and I'll add Sharpen, and keep in mind this sharpens the image overall. If you want just edges sharpen or different components sharpen, there's appropriate sharpening tools in there, but I won't go into that right now. So for the sake of this, I'm going to just sharpen it about 13. And I think that's still a little bright, so I actually want to dial the brightness back a little more too. That looks good there. And actually up the contrast a little bit. All right, pretty happy with that. And like I said, now you're pretty much how you want to be for a static time lapse. But if you want to add a little motion to it, a little perceived motion, you can use the scale parameters that we use to properly size this and actually create like a zooming in effect as the time lapse progresses. So you can start by clicking this little stopwatch, and that sets a keyframe at the beginning of the video. And then you can advance it all the way to the end of the video, and then just scrub this back up to 100%. And then, as you scrub through, you'll notice you get the effect of it zooming in. And keep in mind, when you export this, it's going to be a lot smoother than this. And then, when you're ready, it's simple as adding this to the render queue. Which I just had a senior moment. Click here to add it to the render queue, and this is where you can do your export, which if you use After Effects, you'll know that you just want to name the output file, save it, and then hit render. And that will export your video out, and you'll have a finished project. So that's it for now. Real quick, easy way to create what I think is a little bit more controllable time-lapse video than just using GoPro's software. So that's it for now. I hope this helped. Have a great day.